What's up, y'all? I'm Caitlin Leggett, your favorite journalist, digital media, all the things washed athlete girly. And I play flag football. So, what would I be as an athlete if I did not give my thoughts on the most recent IFAF games, the World Championships that just took place in Germany? This will be one of several tournaments that serve as qualifiers for the LA 28 Olympics. Okay, cool. Let's set the scene. LA 28 is debuting women's and men's flag football. And with that, they're going to allow 12 teams, 6 on the men's side, 6 on the women's. And we have to set those teams up from now until then. So, 2026, we just had the games in Germany. There will be more games in Florida in 2027. And then there will be more games in 2028 at the top of 2028 to set 3 more qualifiers on the men's and women's side. So, off rip, we currently have the US, Mexico, and Canada all on the women's side qualified for the Olympic Games in flag football. Now, let's get into this Germany World Championship match. So, to understand what's going on here, let's get a little bit of context, a little bit of history. These games have been going on since 2002 under the IFAF, International Federation of Football. And in that time, it was a progression. So it started off with Europe dominating a little bit. France was taking some games. And then from there, the U.S. entered the picture and really started taking over. They won it in 2018, 2021, and 2024. So establishing some consecutive dominance, a little bit of a run there. But really, it's been a level playing field because Canada, U.S., and Mexico all have 3 gold medals apiece. All of this to say that they really been playing and the game's been growing, right? Love to see it, love to see it. Another indicative thing that shows how much the game has been growing is the ages of some of these women that are playing. You have women on this US roster who are 17, 19, 18, not even 20 yet, not even 21 yet. That lets you know that girls are getting involved with the game younger and younger, and they're getting better and better. I think also the play that we saw all weekend, chef's kiss, top tier, that lets you know that the world is ready for women's flag football. Okay, cool. So we're thinking about this matchup that we saw in Germany. A couple of things happened here. Mexico was able to qualify for the U.S. games, the 2028 games in LA by beating Great Britain, and it was literally a comeback win. Crazy. Again, all of these things happening, letting you know, like, this is good bump and the folks want to see it. They did all of this in front of a packed house, okay? And they actually created, they being IFAF and their sponsorships, right? Because at this point, we have people pouring in and buying in to women's flag football, built a regulation size field and with bleachers and all the things, giving it the space that it deserves, right? Instead of just playing on some random 70-yard cut field in a park, because that's what we see at a lot of these tournaments. So giving it the space, even giving it media coverage, giving it broadcasters and announcers, all of these things, really setting the ambiance and the tone for the 2028 games. Cool. Now let's specifically get into this U.S. versus Canada women's games. Now it's been several days since these games, so if you don't know who won already, spoiler alert, I'm finna tell you at the end. But at its most basic, if you can't figure it out, Canada qualified for the game, so that should tell you something. But I think it was overall just a really great display of flag football. I think one of the most, again, just an indicator of how good, bump we were seeing. I don't think we saw the first dropped pass until, the 15-minute mark. Games is what? 2 20-minute halves? That lets you know that there is a lot of, obviously, top-tier talent here, but on both sides of the field. Cool. So if we're looking at this USA roster, one thing that stands out to me is that we actually have a lot of returners. There are, I want to say there were at least 6 girls on the active roster, 6 women on the active roster who were also on the team, on the 2025 U.S. national team. And 4 of the alternates were also on last year's 2025, some of them on the active roster. So that lets you know that they are keeping up with their talent. They're adding new where they see, the need, but they are kind of sticking to their core. And with that, we saw actually one of the biggest kind of like upsets that was like early on when we saw that roster come out. Benita Crouch, who is been the U.S. quarterback, was actually not on the roster this time around, but we did see a 17-year-old Akemi Higa. She is a 17-year-old quarterback from Hawaii. And when I say you would not know that this girl was 17 by the poker face that she holds, I'm talking about all game. Just very stoic, very mature in that aspect of just, not getting razzled, not getting frazzled or anything like that, no matter what was happening. And that's kind of crazy to see at that age. You kind of hear in the broadcast, they joke that the girls on the team call her AI Kim, because she just was not reacting to things. And having that type of level-headed quarterback at the helm, and to be so young, listen, yeah. On top of that, she was an extremely accurate quarterback. I want to say she was sitting at around 67%, just in terms of like going 27 for 40 for 268 yards. Hey, 17? Man, yeah. Team USA had an extremely productive offense. The score did end up being 27-20. And though that first score came literally in the first drive of the game, Macy Joncic, literally, I'm talking about little hitch and go action, and booked it downfield, looked up, caught the, you know what I'm saying, rocked it right into the end zone. And they really set the tone for what the games are going to be going forward, but also for what this game was going to be against Canada. I think that we saw a confidence shift throughout the game. I think the U.S. came in extremely confident and they played like it. And I think that as the game went on, that just tilted a little bit as Canada got more and more aggressive. Saw a really good display of football all weekend long from Diana Flores on the Mexico side. But going back to that Canada and U.S. game, the U.S. has a really young core, especially on their offense. They've got Macy Joncic, Ashley Clam, Izzy Garachi, Kennedy Foster, all of these like very young players. And they play young, fiery, a lot of spark, okay, a lot of energy. And then they have those explosive runs, okay, where you'll see they throwing the hips, they're ducking, they're getting up out of there, and really impacting the game in more than just the play itself. The energy that they're bringing, it definitely, like, you can see the other teammates feeding off of that. So I think that's really cool to watch. But with that, we got straight off the gate. We're going to look at some highlights because I say that offense, that defense was tough. First of all, shout out. Listen, the rush don't get a lot of love if it's not a sack, but that rush was putting in some extreme pressure on the passer. I think that she was forcing them to make decisions very quickly, and that doesn't get as much shine as it should, but that really impacts the game right there. Okay, so obviously the opening drive of the game, we get Macy Joncic downfield. She hits a little hitch and go and then just ends up by herself in the end zone. Akemi sees her downfield. Like, that is just great what is this, field vision to, I was going to say court vision, but that's just great field vision to be able to see okay, she kind of bit with the hitch. She's got, her man is behind her, like, let me just send her upfield. All placement, and just, you can see the team on the side get fired up. Cool. I think that there were also some really great matchups on the defensive end. Lauren Goodwin is one of them ones. First of all, she's a former WNBA player, so true athlete. But the defense that she plays, I like it because to me, as an eights player, that's what it looks like she's playing. Now, I think that is a negative and a positive, because with that, we did see her get a couple of like holding or like pass interference, because with that lockdown defense might come a little contact. And that's the part that I hate about fives, is that like, oh, you just want to throw that extra look, get out of there, get off of me, you know? But I think with that, she played really great defense. It's just for the standards of fives non-contact, I think she's just got to kind of give a little more space. She's got to just let them have just a little bit more room, because those were a few of the calls that they got. But I think outside of that, she played phenomenal D. And that's just like a tough part of like spatial awareness, but then also like, okay, I can't let them get the ball. So it's like, how do you determine like how much space is enough space to not get the call and then to still not let them get the ball? Like, she's tough. She's tough. Cool. I think the same can be said for Nikita Christopher. I think that she played really great defense. Very much put a seatbelt on folks, but also some of those things, those same calls that we saw for Lauren Goodwin, we saw similar ones. A little holding where maybe we grabbed the belt or stuff like that. That is just like, this right here again. I do think eights is superior because, you know, like I want a little bump. Nah, I don't want to be bumped, but a little bump get off of me. Like, yeah. But again, just phenomenal defense. I think all around, like these were some very textbook, like DB movements, and staying on their hip. I think just as many of those, like, okay, we got to watch how handsy we are. We saw way more plays where it was just beautiful vibes defense. I'm talking about they gave them room to land. They gave them room to catch. But then they also broke up that pass. They broke up that play. And I think all in all, that was a really big thing for this game and why Canada did not score more. Because I think one thing that Canada did really well was, one, staying on their toes and catching with the toe inside the end zone. I think that there, or not even just in the end zone, but on the field, period. They kept those toes inside as much as they could, one. And then two, they were really actually like very accurate with passes that were right on top of their head. I mean, like the things at the back of the end zone where they still have a defender. I think Canada was extremely, what's the word? They were, what is the word I'm looking for? Canada was extremely consistent with those head top type plays and catching those. So the U.S. just had to be that much more like intentional about their defense. And I think that they were. I think all in all, like it was really just a great showing. So again, we get that first immediate play, right, where we get the. Another thing to note, if I'm not mistaken, I believe for this game it was an all women officiating crew. Definitely T. Yeah. Sport, and it's just the nature of being in a game is that there are going to be lapses in judgment, and that's going to go for both sides. But I think that was something that we saw for the U.S. late in the game that hurt them in more ways than one. So one thing that I specifically remember, right, is the 27th point for Canada, right, when it was still 20-14. Before this, we had a tie ball game at 14. Canada scores. They end up scoring off of similar plays where a man just gets lost. You just lose your man, and all of a sudden, you got somebody solo at the back of the end zone. But at the 27th point, it was literally a missed flag pull, a miscommunication, just a not realizing that, hey, we both went for this flag and we both missed it. And she was able to just she, as in the Canadian player, just able to wiggle her way into the end zone. And it's like that you can't have, because if the score was 27-20, that means at some point y'all tied it up and it could have been 20. And then at its most obvious, the game does end on a drop. You hate that as a player, because any time that a game ends on your play, it makes it feel like, oh, I lost the game. When in reality, no, because there were so many other points in between here, plays, drives, snaps, that could have stopped it from coming down to this one play. But at the end of the day, you gotta have a catch. Unfortunately, you just gotta have a completion when it comes down to it. And I think that's something that, again, just happens in any sport. There are going to be balls dropped. I was a volleyball player. You are going to hit balls out into the net. It's just one of those things that happens. But in those crucial moments, it just can't happen. But I think all in all, again, just a really good display of flag football. I think in the end, penalties just hurt the U.S. Those little lapses are the reason why that they did not walk away with gold. Now, I don't think they ain't gonna have gold not hanging from their neck for long, okay? I do think it's coming. All right? Yeah, thank you. But just from what I see watching this game, again, also just super glad to be able to see flag football be on a stage where you can watch this game like this. So all in all, I actually can't wait to see them play again. I know that, there are some other folks that'll be vying for those last 3 spots, so I would love to see that. There is an Australian team that my homegirl play on, and listen, if they clinch that spot, I will be in LA at them games. Now listen, we hoping that I will be in LA at them games anyways, because I need a job as of April, if anyone cares. But yeah, make sure you stay tuned in to my channel for all things sports reporter, and then just the little crazy tail life I live. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. Love you guys. See you later. Bye.